What happens when you have something important to say and you don't have the words? That's what this is all about. Art with a purpose helps the at-risk learn how to discover more about themselves through art. When you don't have any words, and you're probably saying, now, who are these people? Okay, so it can be somebody that's shy. It can be somebody that is shut down. It could be somebody that doesn't recognize their feelings, or it can be someone that doesn't feel that they're worthy enough to even share their feelings. These are the people that art can help. Anyone with low self-esteem, kids that are being bullied, teens dealing with addictions or trauma, youth who self-harm or plan suicide, and anyone who wants to harm themselves or others. So another thing on this list needs to be kids that juveniles who are the first-time offenders. If we could get this with their parole officers, they can learn how to not be a second offender. So that's another person that art can help. What we do is we need to know what these people are thinking, and we consider them at risk. And I have been working with this at-risk population for over 12 years. I work with kids in rehabs and schools, and I also work with their families, because it's not just a person's issue, it's the whole family dynamic. This piece of artwork was done by a 9-year-old. And here we have the mom and the dad and the sister who is in the rehab. And the 9-year-old made this piece of artwork, but when I said, tell me what this is all about, he shut down. So I just said, what is the title of your artwork? And he goes, what about me? And when his family heard this, they were just shocked, because they thought he was fine, he was doing good. They were paying attention to the older sister that was in a rehab, but they were totally upset when they realized that their young 9-year-old son was, feeling sort of left out in the corner. This young lady was living with her dad. This is a teen in a rehab. And she was living with her dad, and he was going to get married again. She made this piece of artwork because she felt like she was being thrown out in the trash. And again, this is a family art session, so when the father saw this, he had a totally different perspective than before. Here's 2 pieces of artwork with teens that are definitely in trouble. This young man made this piece, and he titled it, "I'm Falling, Don't Help Me." This, he painted his hands red for blood, and he's titled it, "Stop Me." Okay. So these obviously 2 kids or teens would definitely need help. I love to do masks, and masks, we do it with plaster gauze over a mold, and the directive is, what is going on in your mind? And this young lady says, I try to be myself, but negative thoughts keep coming in. This one is obvious. Her thoughts are saying, you are nothing, nobody likes you. It's getting it out because these pieces of artwork live inside you. And if you can get it out, it's a lot lighter, and it's a lot more relief if you can just get that out. We always work again with the families, and the dads are really important in this process, but they're also the ones that don't like to do art, okay? So what happens is when they come into my art room, I usually have 4 or 5 families all together, and the directive is, how do you feel that your daughter is dying? And they are in shock because they think they're going to just do art, and then when they have that directive, so this dad said, I can't do art. I don't know how to do anything but a stick figure. So I said, well, draw a stick figure of how you're feeling. So when he shared that with his daughter, he says, I feel like I'm drowning because I can't help you. Okay, this one was interesting too because he was quite mad at his daughter because he would say, this is $1,000 a day, and this is a car I was going to buy you, or this is a college education that you don't get anymore because you're in a rehab. So I said, what does this feel like? And he goes, it's like a tidal wave that is coming over my family. So this is what he made. And his daughter was completely surprised because she had a wall because he was yelling at her. He's mad at her all the time for having to be in a rehab. But once she saw that he really, really feels, overwhelmed, then she had a totally different opinion and her wall came down a little bit. Moms are better at sort of sharing their feelings through art. This one needs no explanation. Help, she needs help. Her daughter is dying. This one was interesting. I worked in a rehab for 10 years with girls that were dying of eating disorders. And this was a piece of artwork that the student, patient, client made. And when she shared it, her mom was so upset because she is being led by, a faceless black and white person, and she's being led away from the mother. So she's, very upset that this eating disorder or addiction or trauma, whatever it could be, is leading her daughter away. Sometimes we have students that are with their grandparents, or this is an older brother who is taking care of the younger brother, and here he is with his hands tied behind his back. This is a grandfather who is saying, oh my gosh, where am I going to get my money for this? And he, should I remortgage my house? Should I sell things? So again, it's good for the patient, client, student to see these things because then they put some, they realize that, this isn't just my issue, it's the whole family issue. We always, at the end of every art class, we always share. And that's when the magic happens. Okay, so these two young men are sharing what they made, and one of them made a person with a world on his shoulders, and he says, I just feel the weight of the world. The reason that they share is because it's getting it out. They're talking about what they're feeling inside. This is where the magic happens because if you ask them about themselves, chances are they wouldn't have the words. But if they do a piece of artwork and they put it out here and share it, they're talking about something other than themselves, they think. But they're really, talking about themselves. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. This is Maya Angelou. I am drawn to her wisdom. She is a beautiful writer and has a lot of insight. Right now, you are probably wondering, how did I get into this line of work? Years ago, my first year of teaching art, and it was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I had 5 schools. I was an art consultant, so I had from very wealthy white schools all the way through to very poor inner city schools. The first year, towards the very end of the school year, I got in a bad car accident. And I was in the hospital for several weeks, and my mom and dad were in there with me all the time. The kids in my schools would make get well cards for me. And my mom and dad would post them up on the walls so I could see them. They post them up in groups according to the school. And as I'm laying there, I notice that the poor inner city kids are a lot different than the wealthy white kids' cards. This obviously is not their artwork, but I made it so you could get an idea of what I was looking at while I was laying in the hospital. Okay, so the poor inner city did crashes and broken glass and blood and guts. And then the wealthy white-collar school did flowers and balloons and hearts and stuff like that. So it was very interesting. I laid there and I thought, what is this? I had no idea, but I knew it was something big. And that was what drew me on this journey. I've been searching that out ever since. This is the journey that I took after I had that car accident. I've been teaching for 40 years, mostly in junior high and high school, community college art program, 12 years teaching in rehabilitation centers. I've worked with brain injuries, young ladies with eating disorders, teens with addictions, veterans, and Rotary Boys and Girls Club organizations. Now, what is so cool about this is in 1970, when I had that accident, I started taking pictures of all my kids' artwork. And I would jot notes down as to what they said about it. So I have a treasure trove of pictures and documents as what they're saying. This is what I'm focused on now. Art can help identify red flags in a troubled mind before a disaster. And this is so important. We need to know what these kids are thinking and what they're feeling, and especially if they're shut down. We need to help them express their agony through art rather than a weapon. And this is primarily what this Art with a Purpose is focused on right now. You can help me help them. Introduce this healing art concept in every school, rehab, community, and family. And there's sort of a protocol. It's very, very easy. And number one, you want everybody to use their intuition. If you feel someone is crying for help, feel their misery, feel them. Feel their anguish, talk to them. Don't cancel them out, because that's where they go down the road. 2, have the student at risk express their thoughts and feelings through art. Encourage healthy dialogue. When they feel seen and heard, they can heal. And even if it's just their piece of artwork, again, it doesn't fester inside them. It helps them get it out in the open and help them discuss it and help them figure it out. 3, find them help. Report an alarming state of mind or threats of violence or harm to the appropriate authorities, parents, teachers, counselors, police maybe even, any authority that needs to be. The artwork will hold credibility in your concern for the student. What these projects do are a documentation of how they're feeling. So what you do is you just jot down what they say about it and put it in their file. This last piece of artwork was done by a young lady who had been back in rehab 3 times, and it just wasn't working for her. Finally, the 3rd time she got it. And this is her piece of artwork, Glimmer of Hope. That's what I'm hoping to do, is I'm hoping to give everybody a glimmer of hope to be able to deal with red flags in minds of students that are traumatized or at risk. We can make a difference through art. Thank you.